We're going to start today's session with Michelle from South Africa. Michelle, please unmute your line and let's get going.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michelle Rees from IQPay, and we're an innovative technology based out of Johannesburg. If you can, please proceed to the next slide. Essentially, what we do is we've built a facial recognition technology that allows consumers to shop completely wallet and device free. The idea was born out of really having an inclusive technology across the continent. As we know, there are a lot of emerging technologies. However, a lot of them require that you use a specific device, and we really wanted to have something that everyone has. So the obvious was your face. Next slide, please. Really, we're trying to solve for two problems. The first is at the pay point, there's a lot of friction. Especially when it comes to loyalty technologies and loyalty programs. In addition, the actual consumer is the one that is most impacted. The second that we solve for is around payment fraud. As we know, there's a massive drive towards e-commerce technology or e-commerce platforms. And in addition, there's been a massive rise in payment fraud. As many of the banks have made massive strides and all the payment technologies that are currently in the marketplace, the one thing we haven't seen is a massive reduction in the risk of fraud. And we really believe that our solution solves this problem, in addition to actually enhancing the payment checkout process. Next slide. So the technology works in the following way. You download the application, complete a simple registration process, verify the device, and then the very important step is the tokenization of a bank card. So we don't actually share the consumer bank details with any merchant. In this way, you can ensure that the consumer details are never compromised and the cards can never be cloned. The selfie that the consumer is prompted to take is actually converted to a digital signature, so we never share an actual image. Once the consumer has completed the simple process, they're able to start transacting on our network. Next slide, please. For the consumer, there's a myriad of different benefits, including increased security, convenience, privacy, and no longer having to deal with carrying around a multitude of cards or dealing with lost or stolen cards. In addition, there's far greater accuracy in payment processing. Next slide, please. For the merchants, they can enhance their payment or their checkout process while conveniently ensuring that every payment that is processed is accurate. We also foresee an increase in engagement in terms of loyalty as we enhance this process. And we also are able to boost the engagement, the loyalty engagement. Next slide, please. In terms of our competitive advantage, our facial recognition engine has a proven unbiased for all genders and ethnicities, making it a truly inclusive product. The real magic behind our product is that it can run off any off-the-shelf device, meaning that you don't have to make a massive investment in terms of hardware to power the system. The engine processes around 1 million templates in every 10 milliseconds and has an embedded liveness detection, which means that the system cannot be easily spoofed or bypassed with a static photograph. In addition, we ensure end-to-end encryption, making sure that it is the ultimate in secure and safety for the consumer. Next slide, please. In terms of the global market opportunity, it is predicted that there is almost a 6.7 trillion market opportunity in terms of contactless payments. And we really view the opportunity twofold, not only in terms of the size of the market, but we look at the risk of fraud. And the numbers are staggering. Not only does our product address the payment processing and mitigation of fraud, but we also address fraud in claims processing in the medical space, and in payroll, potentially to mitigate ghost employees. Next slide, please. Our target customers extend not only to banks and payment gateways, but there's also use cases for our product in live events, in addition to retailers and e-commerce. The technology can also be used for loyalty programs, as well as medical schemes for claims processing and verification of scheme members. Next slide, please. Our commercial models are varied. We have a per transaction model, as well as advertising both in-app and on-device. We make use of a freemium model for consumers to drive adoption. However, we do have a premium service that is a partnership with Vodacom here in South Africa. Excuse me. And we also have a SaaS model for loyalty, medical, and payroll. We also foresee the adoption of our product primarily taking place through API calls integrated into third-party applications. Next slide, please. We've already built a very strong strategic partnership and ecosystem here in South Africa. We're about to launch together with Standard Bank and deploy our technology across 16,000 merchants. But we've also have a very strong B2B business model. And for this reason, we have partnered with many of the industry leaders to integrate our solution into existing technologies. Next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation.
And what is the state of the business right now, Michelle? Where are you? So you have the product ready?
We have the product ready. We actually did a lot of market testing in live events in South Africa late last year. We onboarded almost 200 merchants and almost 5,000 consumers. And we really tested the boundaries of the technology. There were huge amounts of learnings in this process, and we realized that there was some remediation that was needed. And we made a strategic decision to scale back and then relaunch this year together with Standard Bank. So we're still pre-revenue.
And what are the commercial terms with Standard Bank?
So we have been made an aggregator on their payment gateway, and we derive a per transaction fee, a 0.75% per transaction.
From the merchants?
Correct.
And the merchants all bank with Standard Bank. These are merchants who bank with Standard Bank.
It's currently merchants that bank with Standard Bank, yes.
So now, for this to actually get adopted, Standard Bank will have to market the technology, the product to their merchants. Then the merchants will have to sign up and start marketing to their consumer base. This is how you see this partnership evolve.
So yes and no. To an extent, we have obviously from a customer acquisition cost, it does help that they are marketing directly to their merchants. The devices will be preloaded with our application. So it's a case of just enabling it for each merchant and a very seamless process for us to onboard them.
What device? You have not
they are
so far.
They're the point of sale devices that they use. It's a very specific PAX device with a back-facing camera, and it's an Android-based device. They're deploying 16,000 of them in the marketplace.
And the devices are also your product, or the devices are somebody else's product that you are piggybacking on?
They belong to the bank. The devices belong to the bank.
I see. Okay. Now, what is this a standard modus operandi in the banking system in Africa? Are other banks also marketing their own device-based point of sale systems that you can piggyback on top of?
Yes, they are. And for this reason, we have not signed any exclusivity with Standard Bank.
Yeah.
And we actually agree with the strategy. They believe that the adoption will be driven by multi-banks actually onboarding the technology.
Okay. So, it sounds like to me the best strategy is to go with the banks and piggyback on their device and get straight into the merchants through this process. Do you have any sense? There is something that I want to point out to you here.
Mm-hmm.
Your market sizing. The
Yes.
market opportunity is not in the trillions. This is not how market sizing is done in startups. What you need to do is figure out a bottom-up market sizing based on the strategy, the go-to-market strategy, and the business model that you're following. So, let's say Standard Bank brings you into all these merchants. What is the average revenue that you're going to make for each of these banks per year over the lifetime of that customer? And how many merchants do you think are going to adopt it? How many banks are there, etc.? So you're going to need to get a handle on what is the real bottom-up market size here. And that's a very
Okay.
important analysis that as you build this company, and especially if you go out to raise money, everybody is going to want to see, all the investors are going to want to see. How are you funded right now?
So we've bootstrapped. We have I have a successful exit from my previous startup, also in software development, and
Right.
we reinvested it into this business. So thus far, we've reinvested just under $500,000 USD into the business. And we're currently about to we've started our fundraising. We are having some success, but I really do value the points on the market sizing. If I may just drill down a little bit further on that, because I find it very, very valuable in terms of understanding. We obviously have a South African strategy because this is our home turf and where we feel we're strongest. The banking regulation is also far more stringent in South Africa. So we feel that together with the MasterCard partnership, we're about to embark on certification for biometric checkout with MasterCard. Would you recommend that when you say we do the market sizing, so if we look at Standard Bank, they have 9.2 million customers with the 16,000 merchants and the rollout of those devices over the next 3 years. Are those the figures specifically that you would want to see in this presentation to see what that opportunity?
See, market size, you need to create a model, and those numbers that you just talked about are going to go into that model. And the other number that is going to go into that model is how many such banks are there and what are their install bases that need to be factored in.
Okay.
So, and then, I imagine that this is not just South Africa, you have all of Africa and you have other countries as well. You have to look at the competitive landscape elsewhere and see, there is the South African market, there is the African market at large, there is, a broader market. So you can look at all of that and see how, how your market size pans out. But I really like the strategy that the go-to-market strategy of going through banks, and the fact that you're able to crack that, piggybacking on these banks and giving them a solution that goes into the hands of merchants through their device. That's, I think, a very, very good go-to-market strategy. So there's a lot that I like in what you're doing and what you've done so far.
Thank you very much.
You have any other question before we move on?
I think just in terms of global strategy, how much, because we're entering the sort of fundraising now, and it is our first round of fundraising externally. Obviously, South Africa, we have a lot of challenges in raising funds in Africa at the moment. Is there any advice you have in terms of what hasn't been covered in my presentation from an investor perspective?
Competition has not been covered. So,
Okay.
especially you have to provide what is the competitive landscape in South Africa, what is the competitive landscape in Africa, and what is the competitive landscape beyond, depending on what your market size numbers are yielding and what you show as your go-to-market ambition. So remember one thing, you have to go, if you want to raise venture capital, you have to show a credible path to go from 0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years. And
Okay.
can you do that in South Africa? Can you do that in Africa at large? Where else are you going to go if you need a market beyond that? All of that calculation you need to make and present a credible case. I have one other feedback for you on this commercial model slide. It's too complicated. What you have here is too complicated. I would zero
Okay.
in on what you have validated. The standard bank use case that you have provided is a transaction fee-based model. I would kind of model the business on that one and just do your market sizing on that and not make it so complicated, because investors don't like multiple different business models within the same business. They like one business model. It's easier to value companies, it's easier to scale companies if you can establish one business model. And I'm absolutely sure that investors would love this go-to-market strategy of going in through piggybacking on banks' devices. And there, the business model is the transaction fee-based business model. So I would just stick to that.
Okay. Just to sorry to cut in. Just to mention, in terms of the business model, we've done a very similar thing with the payment gateways that we've partnered with. So it's an added service on the gateway and a transactional fee. So
Right.
I'll remodel it and work on just those two. So there's one e-commerce and one in-store. Would that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. That's so then all arrows are pointing towards the transaction fee-based business model. So just model the business on that assumption and drop all the other stuff. Advertising, SaaS, drop all of that and focus it completely on a transaction fee-based business model.
Noted. Thank you.
You're welcome. Very good.